Hammond, Indiana, May 8, 1929. Early morning. 3 men lie near a shallow ditch on the south side of the road. Their positions show no pattern. One is face down, arms extended. One is turned onto his side. One is lying near the ditch with drag marks visible in the dirt. Their clothing is torn. The fabric shows powder burns. Entry wounds appear across the chest, shoulders, and arms. One man is missing a portion of his left pinky finger. It is located a few inches from his hand. The bodies are identified later as Albert Anselmi, John Scalise, and Joseph Giunta. All 3 are members of the Chicago outfit. All 3 have histories of violence connected to gang conflicts in Chicago during the 1920s. They were last seen alive the night before. Before these men ended up here, they were part of the organization led by Al Capone. Al Capone's position in early 1929 is established. He controls operations in Cicero, Chicago's South Side, and several surrounding suburbs. These operations include breweries, gambling halls, nightclubs, and transportation networks. His leadership is firm. His decisions are final. He delegates violence to trusted men. Anselmi and Scalise are 2 of those men. Both are Sicilian-born. Both have prior involvement in violent disputes against the North Side gang. Their names appear in multiple accounts involving the killing of Dean O'Banion in 1924. They work as enforcers and shooters. Their reputations are established through consistent participation in outfit activity. Joseph Giunta holds a different position. He is the president of the Unione Siciliana, a Sicilian fraternal organization with influence across Chicago's Italian neighborhoods. Control of this organization is important. It gives access to political contacts, financial networks, and local authority within the community. During the first months of 1929, information circulates inside outfit circles that Giunta intends to increase his influence. Reports appear that Giunta is cooperating with Joe Aiello, a rival of Capone. Aiello has attempted multiple actions against Capone's organization, including known assassination attempts and coordination with outside groups. At the same time, Anselmi and Scalise are observed meeting with individuals outside their normal responsibilities. Their movements draw attention from men close to Capone. These observations indicate coordination between the 3 men, Giunta, Scalise, and Anselmi. Frankie Rio, a trusted bodyguard of Capone, learns of conversations suggesting a plan to remove Capone from leadership. Rio reports this. Capone initially dismisses the claim because Scalise and Anselmi have been reliable for several years. More information surfaces. Capone instructs Rio to monitor the situation. A staged argument is arranged inside a controlled location. Rio leaves the room. Scalise and Anselmi follow him. They present him with a proposal to assist in a plan against Capone. Rio listens and then reports back. At this point, Capone concludes that a betrayal is underway. He does not act immediately. Instead, he waits for a moment when all 3 men can be in the same place without drawing suspicion. That opportunity appears in early May. A banquet is organized in Cicero on the night of May 7, 1929. The stated purpose is to recognize Giunta's role as president of the Unione Siciliana. Attendance is limited. The event takes place inside a private residence associated with Capone. The 3 men, Giunta, Scalise, and Anselmi, arrive without incident. The gathering begins with food, seating, and normal activity for such meetings. Nothing indicates immediate danger. What happens next is not documented in a single official source. Multiple accounts exist. None contain identical details. However, all accounts agree on the following conditions. The 3 men were inside the residence on the night of May 7th. They were confronted regarding their involvement in a plan against Capone. Violence occurred inside the residence. The 3 men did not leave the location alive. Some accounts state that blunt instruments were used. Others indicate that the confrontation was brief and ended with firearms. The known autopsy results from Indiana show only bullet wounds as the cause of death. No fractures consistent with impact weapons appear in the reports. The only bruising not caused by bullets is found on the ankles of John Scalise, consistent with dragging the body. After the confrontation, the bodies are transported out of Illinois. The vehicle travels roughly 20 miles across state lines into Indiana. The bodies are removed from the vehicle near the road. 2 are placed on the ground. 1 is dragged several feet. The vehicle departs the location. This concludes the events between the night of May 7th and the morning of May 8th. The next phase involves the circumstances behind why the betrayal occurred, why these men believed they could move against Capone, and what the internal structure of the outfit looked like during the months leading up to the killings. The conditions that allowed this event to occur were already in motion long before the banquet, and they began inside Chicago's power networks, not inside the room where the violence happened. The conditions that led to the deaths of Anselmi, Scalise, and Giunta began months earlier inside Chicago's Sicilian and American criminal networks. These networks operated separately in public, but merged behind closed doors. The mergers created conflicts. Those conflicts placed the 3 men at the center of a dispute that involved leadership, influence, and control. During the first quarter of 1929, the Unione Siciliana remained a key organization among Sicilian immigrants in Chicago. Whoever held the presidency controlled social events, business relations, and the political direction of the neighborhoods where the membership lived. For several years, leadership of the Unione Siciliana rotated between men with ties to organized crime assassinations and abrupt removals were common. Joseph Giunta stepped into the presidency during this period. He was recognized by Sicilian members and accepted by the broader immigrant community. However, his authority did not automatically extend to the Chicago outfit. The outfit operated under a different structure, one defined by revenue, territory, and coordination with external political allies. Capone controlled that structure. Giunta wanted influence inside both systems. Reports indicate he met with individuals from the Aiello faction. Joe Aiello opposed Capone, attempted multiple actions against him, and maintained connections with other groups opposing the outfit. When Giunta began moving toward a cooperative position with Aiello, he shifted the balance inside Sicilian circles. His position as president gave him strategic value. Anselmi and Scalise followed a different path. Their value to the outfit came from experience and reliability. Both men had long-standing reputations as enforcers. They were involved in earlier killings linked to the war with the North Side Gang. Their names appeared repeatedly in accounts documenting violent events across the mid-1920s. They established themselves as men capable of carrying out difficult tasks without hesitation. By early 1929, both men were looking for increased authority inside outfit operations. They wanted more responsibility, more territory, and more direct influence. The combination of ambition and opportunity made them open to alternatives. Giunta's presence provided a starting point. Aiello's rivalry with Capone provided a direction. Meetings occurred between Giunta, Scalise, and Anselmi. These meetings took place outside of standard outfit activity. Some were held inside Sicilian-owned businesses, others inside apartments controlled by associates of the Unione Siciliana. The meetings were short, private, and not shared with Capone's senior men. Information about these meetings reached Frankie Rio. Rio monitored the individuals entering and exiting these locations. He reported unusual gatherings and noted the timing. The frequency increased through March and April. The more he observed, the clearer it became that the 3 men were coordinating Capone-requested confirmation. Rio continued gathering details. The staged confrontation was planned as a test. The argument between Capone and Rio was intentional. It was held in a controlled setting. The objective was to see whether Anselmi and Scalise would act on the opportunity. They did. They approached Rio immediately after the staged dispute and proposed cooperation. Their statements confirmed involvement in a plan against Capone. Once Capone received this information, he assessed the situation. Removing one or two men would leave the plan partially intact. Removing all three required a coordinated event. A public confrontation was not an option. A street attack carried risks. A private meeting offered more control. The banquet on May 7th was scheduled. The invitation appeared routine. Giunta was the recognized president of the Unione Siciliana. A dinner in his honor did not raise suspicion. The location was familiar. Capone had used the residence for meetings, meals, and gatherings. Men known to Giunta, Scalise, and Anselmi were present. The environment appeared normal. When the three men entered, seating was assigned. Food was prepared. Drinks were poured. Conversation followed expected patterns. No signs of conflict appeared in the early portion of the event. At a predetermined point, Capone moved the focus of the room. The accounts describing what happened next vary, but all credible sources agree on the sequence. The doors were closed. Movement inside the room shifted. The three men were confronted with the information Rio provided. Violence followed. The details surrounding the confrontation are inconsistent across witness statements, later reports, and retellings. Some claim a blunt weapon was used. Others claim only firearms were used. The known autopsy reports from Indiana show no fractures caused by impact weapons. The fractures present were caused by gunfire. This supports the conclusion that the final cause of death was multiple gunshot wounds. The confrontation ended quickly. The bodies were removed from the residence. They were placed in a vehicle and taken out of Illinois. The transport route followed roads leading toward Hammond, Indiana. The driver stopped at a rural stretch of roadway. The bodies were removed and placed near the ditch. Drag marks indicate one body was moved farther than the others. After placement, the vehicle departed. This completed the removal operation. The decision to leave the bodies in Indiana served several purposes. It distanced the event from Cicero. It sent a message to anyone cooperating with Aiello, and it allowed Capone to continue internal operations without immediate disorder. The outfit functioned on continuity. Leaving a vacuum in leadership or removing experienced enforcers required a measured response. The deaths of Giunta, Scalise, and Anselmi created an immediate shift inside Chicago's Sicilian community. The presidency of the Unione Siciliana once again became open. The removal of two senior outfit enforcers created vacancies that Capone quickly reorganized. Trusted men stepped into new positions. One of those men was Tony Accardo, whose role increased significantly after these events. The internal structure of the outfit stabilized within days. Aiello's influence did not grow as he expected. The betrayal failed. The removal of the three conspirators reinforced Capone's authority across Chicago. The next stage in the story concerns how the myth of the baseball bat murders emerged, how it circulated, and how it replaced the documented autopsy results in public memory. This transformation did not happen immediately. It developed over years through repeated retellings, dramatizations, and media interpretations. These distortions eventually replaced the factual sequence with a version that became more widely known than the actual events. Following the removal of Giunta, Anselmi, and Scalise, the Chicago outfit reorganized. The leadership structure adjusted. Men loyal to Capone stepped into newly opened roles. Tony Accardo advanced in rank. Frankie Rio's reliability increased his position. Capone's control remained intact. The deaths of the three men were known inside criminal circles, but the details surrounding the event were limited. Information moved through intermediaries, associates, and community members. Each person repeated a version that fit their understanding. This produced variations. These variations became the foundation of the baseball bat story. The earliest mentions of a blunt weapon appeared inside informal accounts. These accounts circulated among individuals aligned with rival groups. Some stated that Capone struck the men with a bat. Others claimed that Capone supervised while others used bats. None of these claims were supported by evidence from the autopsies conducted in Indiana. The autopsies listed gunshot wounds as the cause of death. Bullet impact fractures were recorded. No fractures associated with blunt force trauma appeared. The bruising present on Scalise's ankles aligned with dragging, not beating. These findings contradicted the emerging stories. However, the factual reports did not spread as quickly as the rumors. As time passed, the story shifted. The idea of Capone using a baseball bat during the confrontation became a simplified version of the event. It was easier for public audiences to understand a direct physical act. The real sequence, built on internal betrayal, structured planning, and controlled execution, was more complex and less sensational. During the 1930s and 1940s, newspapers repeated the rumor. Some articles described Capone attacking the men personally. Others suggested multiple individuals used bats. These reports relied on second-hand information. None referenced the Indiana autopsies. The repetition reinforced the myth. By the time new generations learned about the events of 1929, the baseball bat story had already become part of the narrative. It appeared in books, magazines, and street stories. Each retelling removed more details and added new ones. The confrontation became exaggerated. The number of blows increased. The setting shifted. The violent imagery overshadowed the documented facts. The most significant influence on the myth came decades later through media dramatization. The 1987 film The Untouchables included a scene portraying a banquet where Capone killed a man with a baseball bat. The scene was designed for dramatic effect. It did not claim to match the historical record. However, because the film reached a wide audience, the scene became widely associated with real events. Viewers connected the cinematic depiction to the 1929 incident involving Giunta, Scalise, and Anselmi. The film's impact solidified the myth in public memory. The visual representation overpowered earlier, factual descriptions. Even though the film was not presenting the exact historical moment, audiences assumed it did. Researchers who examined the autopsy records pointed out the inconsistencies between the popular version and the medical findings. Historians noted the lack of fractures associated with blunt force impact. The investigators who documented the bodies in Indiana recorded bullet wounds as the cause of death. These sources contradicted the myth, yet the myth continued to spread. By the mid-20th century, the baseball bat story was considered one of the most well-known legends connected to Al Capone. It appeared in documentaries, interviews, and books without verification. Some authors repeated it because it was familiar. Others repeated it because it had become part of Chicago's crime folklore. The longevity of the story can be attributed to several factors. It presented a simple explanation for a complex event. It emphasized Capone's reputation for decisive action. It relied on visual imagery that was easy to remember. It circulated before public access to official records was widespread. It aligned with pre-existing narratives about organized crime during Prohibition. The myth grew because it fit expectations. The factual record did not. The actual events surrounding the deaths of Giunta, Scalise, and Anselmi were organized, deliberate, and based on internal structure. Capone did not display impulsive violence. He relied on planning, delegation, and controlled responses. His actions followed logistical requirements within the outfit. The baseball bat myth portrayed him differently. It emphasized spectacle. It implied direct participation. It suggested a form of violence inconsistent with his documented methods. The myth simplified him into a figure of dramatic brutality. The factual version shows a different pattern. Capone responded to information, verified a threat, and removed the individuals involved. He used a controlled environment. The removal was executed efficiently. The bodies were transported and abandoned outside Chicago. These actions fit a pattern of operational management, not theatrical violence. In the years that followed, additional evidence reinforced the factual account. Interviews with individuals connected to the events indicated that firearms were used. No credible witness claimed that blunt weapons caused the deaths. Researchers reviewing historical documents found no direct sources supporting the bat story's details. The myth persisted because it circulated widely and became part of Chicago's identity. The factual findings remained inside specialized records. Only researchers, historians, or individuals with access to archived documentation were aware of the full picture. The discrepancy between the myth and the record demonstrates how criminal events can transform over time. Public perception often relies on dramatic elements rather than verified information. In this case, the gap widened until the myth overshadowed the facts almost completely. By the time the bodies were found on the roadside in Indiana on May 8, 1929, the sequence of events had already been set in motion by months of internal tension. The betrayal had formed. The meetings had occurred. The confirmation had been secured. The banquet had taken place. The removal had been executed. The final outcome was the 3 bodies lying in separate positions near the ditch. The later interpretations did not change the documented sequence. They only changed the way the story was told. The real events involved a planned response to an internal threat. The myth involved a dramatic act that never occurred. The autopsies remain the final, factual record of what happened. They show gunfire. They show bullet-caused fractures. They do not show evidence of a baseball bat. Despite this, the myth continues to circulate because it offers a narrative that appears more memorable. The factual account remains clear, but the exaggerated version became widely accepted over time. The term baseball bat murders is still used in public discussions, even though the documented evidence does not support it. The persistence of this phrase demonstrates how repeated storytelling can overwrite verifiable information. What happened to Giunta, Anselmi, and Scalise was a coordinated removal driven by internal betrayal, not a theatrical act with a blunt weapon. The historical record remains unchanged. The myth remains a separate creation,